Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Friday, May the 10th, 2024. I am Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and this is your Friday video blog, your status chat. So we've got some stuff to go into. I wanted to get into the Biden proposed budget so we can look at what they're asking for in terms of taxation, but I thought I'd just put that off to a day when we can get an earlier start for that. So let's go over here and get it all going. Be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. I just ask you to click like and subscribe so I'm not taking so much time. I will have to put the one at the end where it's the one that gives all the contact information and what all. It'll still be there, but I'm going to see if I can't trim this up a little bit for you. All right, so I tell you what, let's look at what we've got going on. News of the day is consumer sentiment tumbles as inflation fears surge. And this is obviously from CNBC Economy, Jeff Cox, May 10th, today. This is today's little report. And I just want to remind you that, easy things are seldom good. Good things are seldom easy. There's nothing you can do more for someone to help them in their life other than be really honest with them. You don't have to try to beat them up over the head. But the truth is you have to be honest with people so that they don't fall, because otherwise we're just blind leading the blind. So we've got to talk about this. We talk about this economic stuff because this is what's been all consuming for the last 3 years. So we go back over and look at that. We'll hit this very lightly because I've got 5 other tabs here to go in with. But the key points is the University of Michigan survey of consumer sentiment for May posted an initial reading of 67.4 for the month, down from 77.2 in April, and well off the Dow Jones consensus call for 76. So look, we're just about 11 points or 10 points or so below what the Dow Jones thought it was. Of course, we know about media bias. Media bias, as my friend Phil Valentine used to say, media bias isn't just what they tell you, but what they don't tell you. I had to modify that just for respect purposes. The move represented a 1-month decline of 12.7%. 1-year inflation outlook jumped to 3.5, up 0.3 of a percentage point from a month ago to the highest level since November 2023. Now, this is only November of 2023, so it's not that long. So I don't want to get you too excited right off of the bat either. I just want to try to bring it to you as flat and hot as I can take it without actually trying to spin it or scald you at the same time. So anyway, here we are. We're going to repeat it. It's down. Consumer sentiment is down. Now, there is, because it's CNBC, there's some horse pucky in this where they try to say, oh, how people behave when they fear inflation. Now, let me just talk about that real quick. I don't know if you follow me because I don't really have that many people and it's not getting pushed up in SEO. So if you can like and comment, believe it or not, your comments have a lot to do with where something is seen and where it's not seen. Even if you tell me I'm a crazy old man. But you saw last year I started redoing and remodeling, cleaning up some of the house. Now, my motivation, as I told you back then, was I personally believe that because we spent all the money, that inflation was going to come in here and bite us on the absolute tuchus and leave teeth marks. So I thought, well, it's not really a good time for me, but I need to finish up some cleanup, some fix up. I didn't get everything done, but I did do the kitchen upstairs. We got all that done because I believe that prices were just going to go higher. And at the rate they were going about the time I did it, it was still, I think, close to double digits or so, and it was still climbing up. So I got that project done. It's not like I went to Hollywood or went to Vegas or anything. I'm putting it in real property, doing work that needs to be done, doing things that for me is probably one of my better growth potentials. So I spent ahead thinking it was just going to get worse. Other people, and this is the point I want you to think about, other people spent because they're sort of in denial. They voted for this madness of womb to the tomb. Everybody gets a free car. Oprah Winfrey, you get a free check, you get a free check, we get a free check. And they voted for it, and all of that printing of the money, you know how it works. Do you remember that COVID bill? We had one of the early COVID bill, I think it was $4 trillion. Don't quote me on that, but go look it up. $4 trillion of spending, okay? And 9 cents of it, only 9 cents of that 4 trillion, 9 cents per dollar of that entire massive spending bill had anything associated with COVID, and a lot of that COVID money never got spent. It got put into slush funds for certain areas that once the money was there, they technically had it, but they hadn't spent it, so maybe it didn't show up just yet. So they tried to play the fact denial game, where it's just like, oh, this isn't inflation. Inflation is transitory. When it started, I'm going to end up with and show you a response to someone who I'm not trying to be rude to, but I'm going to make a point. If it hair lips my dog, I'm going to show you something that's going to make it pretty darn clear, because we've got to stop spending this money. Here it is. While consumers had been reserving judgment for the past few months, they now perceive a negative developments under a number of dimensions, says Joan Su, survey director. They expressly worry about inflation, unemployment, and interest rates may all be moving in unfavorable direction. Now, this is when I put my little lighthearted, cutesy bit about the E-Trade baby's surprise face. How can this be a surprise to you when we blew the money supply out, right? It's just a matter of time. For every extra dollar we print, the dollars that were already there go down in value. And so if you're an old person on Social Security, you're losing more in buying power than you had by their generous cost of living increases. Most of the families, do you feel like you're pinched really hard? You probably are. And you can play that game, and we're not going to change too terrible much. We've got a little bit of plastic, and we'll extend it out just a little bit. It's going to get better. I got people on Facebook selling certain types of things, and they're saying, oh, it's going to be great, and the interest rate's going to come down pretty soon, and which will affect your credit card payment. And so you just push out. There's two types of people that will run head first into a building, and others that will deny you they even smell smoke. And that's why we cannot really judge all of the economy based upon one thing or another. But at this point in time, I feel safe to say most of us, unless we're just rolling in the money, unless we have the big bag, we're feeling the pinch of having your dollar biscuit go to $2.70, your ramen noodles go from $1 to $2, and so on, the chicken and the beef and everything to go with it. You got to feed your family. It's getting bad. And so we'll try to have a little bit of fun where we can, and where we're really coming toward the wall. We're hitting that wall whether we want to or not. You can deny it all you want to, but it's still going to be there. All right. Now, we're going to go down through here just about uncertainty. This is a big thing. We've been lied to about everything during this whole past 2 years. Inflation is transitory. We're going to get a hold of it. The rate drops are going to be right around the corner. And what did I tell you about rate drops? When the Fed drops rates, they're not doing it because we hit a soft landing. They're doing it because we just blew out the economy and things are tanking. So be very, very careful of anybody who's trying to tell you that everything is really great and good. Now, they are what they are. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing in the dark in the woods that isn't there during the light. Difference is you can't see it. Isn't it better if you could light a candle and see in front of you? That's what I'm trying to do. I think things are going to get tougher in the future. I'm concerned about unemployment, and I'm concerned about things going hard in the wrong direction. But I also believe that we have a very good chance. Now, I'm starting to hear other people who are smarter than me say, yeah, we might actually continue rising on the target rate because inflation isn't working. And you really can't focus solely on a mortgage rate when everything else in your life is driven by inflation, which means renters are affected by inflation. Working class people are affected by inflation. Poor people are most particularly hit hard by inflation. People on fixed income are hit hard by inflation. Inflation will always, in my mind, take precedence over the interest rates, even though it has to do with the entire economy and all that. It's because the inflation hurts people. You can kind of hurt a market, and the market not necessarily gripe as loudly as if you hurt people. So I think inflation is going to be the big game here. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about. Signs of the time. I am a semi-professional dot connector, so here's one of my dots. This one is from Microsoft here. It's MT News. I don't know if that has something to do with Microsoft or not, but we're going to read this. Dollar General slashes annual outlook as retailer plans to accelerate inventory reduction. So what do you think is happening in our economy if Dollar General affects what they're going to? Dollar General lowered its full-year outlook amid softer sales trends, while the discount retailer said it plans to accelerate the pace of its inventory reduction efforts. The company now anticipates earnings to be in the range of $7.10 to $8.30 a share in the ongoing fiscal year, reflecting an annual decline of 22 to 34%. In June, it expected EPS, as earnings per share, to be flat to down 8%. The consensus on Capital IQ is for the per share earnings of $10. All right, what segment of the population do you think we have reflected in the dollar store, the discount retail, Dollar General, dollar store, any of these that are on the decline? When the discount stores are on decline, what do you think that says to you about the population of America and their fiscal position in this Biden economy, the post-big spend economy, when dollar stores are in trouble and losing revenue? To me, it tells me that we're not doing all that great, that we really are feeling pain, that we aren't alone, and that we didn't choose this. At least I didn't choose this. So here we go. McDonald's post rare profit miss as customers turn picky. This is Reuters by Savata Mishira, April 30th, 2024, updated 10 days ago. And we're not going to really hit this with much more than this summary. Maybe I can plus this up. Hello, I'm Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. All right, Q1 same-store sales profit miss estimates. So what does this tell you with the same-store sales missing estimates? What it tells me is when the same sales stores miss estimates, there must be something locally pulling that business away from that same store, or maybe just maybe the regular patronage of that same store has dropped off for some reason. We don't know for sure. Now, relative superiority on affordability declined in some market. Yeah, they went nuts with inflation, with the prices. My dollar menu biscuit is now about $2.70. Rivals restaurant brands, Domino's Pizza, top quarterly estimates. So we're going to hit this. We can look at this a little bit. Global sales slid for the 4th straight quarter to 1.9. We're not going to look too much at that. But what does it tell you when your McDonald's changes? Because people are literally getting to the point they're either going to have to fix a little egg sandwich on the way out the door to work, or they're going to have to get up 5 or 10 minutes earlier and eat a bowl of cereal. Something is going on where we're trailing off of the low in the inferior good market. Now, what's an inferior good? An inferior good is something like, if we were going great guns, I might eat A5 Japanese steak. And if my money wasn't doing quite as good, I might step down to a prime steak, okay? Or even choice, okay? Now, though to A5, the prime and the choice is an inferior good, but it's still an awfully good steak. But now what if I have to go to hamburger that from steak, or chicken from steak, or pork chops from steaks? That's an inferior, because if life was better, I would prefer to eat steak. Now, when all of that goes bad and we're really down on the low end of the market, ramen noodles, rice, carb, potatoes, hamburger helper, those are normally considered inferior good, because if we could, we would eat something of a different choosing. So McDonald's and them were already an inferior good compared to a nice sit-down restaurant. So when you see the inferior good kind of take a hit like that, about what you're going to get to replace that is going to be cook at home. So I think that's to me, I'm reading something into it that may not be there, but that's what I see. Now, let me hit one more here, and if you're ready for it, I'm going to take you to a slightly different generation, slightly different market, but it's going to show you that people are cutting back. I think the average consumer is run out of money. We can look at charge-offs in consumer debt and commercial banks next time if we look at the budget. But it's ABC News, Mark Zahn, May 6th. That was a day after Cinco de Mayo. It wasn't that long ago. I'll post these links to these things where you can find them. Go away. The brand is incredibly resilient, but it's clearly not business as usual, former CEO Howard Schultz said in a post on LinkedIn on Sunday. What's happened when Starbucks is getting trimmed back? Starbucks shares Actually, I think last time I looked at it, it took a big tank. More than 17% in value since the company revealed sales slumps in the earnings report last week. Is the economy faltering, or is something wrong with Starbucks? It's like the old dating thing. Is it you or is it me? I would say it probably a little bit both, because that's been my experience. And the other way, I think Starbucks is not my brand choice for coffee. I may have a company in a few more months I will reveal to you which would be my choice for coffee. But it's also at the same time, it's a semi-luxury item. When you charge $7 a cup of coffee, it's one thing to buy a nice bag of a micro roaster, a small roaster specialty coffee, and do it at home and enjoy it on the weekend, or a quick espresso on the way out. But when you're hitting the $7, $10, $14 type of coffee during the day, it doesn't take a lot of that for it to stack up on you. So some of it is their price point, I think. Some of it is coffee is something that we begrudgingly but can give up. And I think we're seeing that in a section of our society. Now, this is the one thing I remember right down here. Consumers have less demand for expensive coffee. Albert Wang, a professor of finance at Auburn University, go War Eagles, go Tigers. There are also issues at the company. So he's basically said what I did. But here's the part I want to get to. Starbucks did not immediately respond to ABC News request for a comment. ABC News was ghosted. All right. Now, I want to take you a little bit to one more thing, because this is already long. Can't get it in here today. But I really want to break into what the Biden budget is doing. Not only did they blow our national debt out, blow our printing of the money out, explode the inflation, but they're wanting to tax us absolutely to death. And I would like to take you through some of what I see in Biden's budget. And it's not here yet. It isn't approved. It's not real. But I want you to know that they're targeting the money. It's the sprinkle government is what you got here. Show me the money. Biden proposes 44.6% capital gains tax hike, the highest in U.S. history. And the reason I say that is because it's not just capital gains. One of the things, I just don't have time to get into it with you right now, but stay tuned next week. And if I don't squirrel between now and then, if something hotter doesn't come up, we'll break this budget out and look what they're asking for. It could not be more clear to see. You just got to open your eyes. Now, I've got one last little thing I want to trip to, and let me see if I can bring that panel up. All right, here's my little tell-on, where I kind of tell on myself. I want to draw your attention down here. This was a response to a video where a Gen Zer was saying, this is why Gen X, Gen Y and Gen Zs are turning toward socialism, turning toward communism as a relief, because the boomers ruined his life. And he was in the car. You know how people do these TikTok videos in the car where they scream and they holler and they throw a hissy fit, like, I don't know, maybe it gets some attention they need. And some people say bad attention is still better than being unseen at all, or whatever the expression is. But he was having a hissy fit. All I wanted to do was explain to them for their own eyes so that they can understand this. This is not politics. This is economics. Don't be the turkey that voted for Thanksgiving. And that's what we're doing. That's what people who don't know what's going on, who can't connect the dots. Those who haven't already had their learning phase, I had my learning phase, those who have had our learning phase finally catch on. I mean, I just turned 62 and I'm still learning stuff. But there's a few things I figured out. One of them is I can't live on a credit card. And I don't have the ability to print money to try to cheapen my debt. But there is a race with inflation, with wages, and the inflation itself. If you can outpace inflation, it may be good for you. But most of us don't. Most of us real human beings don't. So here's my little graph. Are you ready? This comes from one of our sites that I show you from time to time. This comes from the Atlanta Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, the Home Ownership Affordability Monitor. As the federal banking system goes, different banks have different charges. You'll see St. Louis has FRED, or the Federal Reserve's economic data. They do some stuff. Here we go. But this is, I want to draw your attention, this is the metro area. This is national versus metro share of income. Nashville, Davidson County, Murfreesboro, Franklin, Tennessee. That's kind of our Middle Tennessee MSAG. Here we are. Here's where we were. This is where we've been coming from. We're below that 30%. You know, when you would get a loan, they'd want to see that your mortgage with your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance did not exceed 30% of your income. All right, this is where we were. Do you see what the green is? The green is U.S. share. We were always lower. Metro would be our Middle Tennessee area. We were always much more affordable than national. And here we go. What happened in 2020? We had a big election. We had a thing that was, I don't want to get into that, but we had a big election and we pumped a bunch of money. We pumped it, we primed it, we printed it, we pumped a bunch of money. And then we were waiting to see if we could get away with it. So here we go, from a year from when that money was passed, to it trying to get filtered into the economy, because a lot of it's still in slush funds and didn't find its way to contracts and all that. 12 months goes by, we're right over here, we're still looking good on affordability. And I want you to notice the difference between the black line and the gray line, and see how long this took before it even showed up. There was a year's lag. Okay, then we start going up pretty sharply after it kicks in, and our prices of our homes kind of come back up, and they've been high since 2022. And I really don't want to hear a lot of counter. I mean, it's your opinion, but I really don't want to hear a lot of counter of, well, it's because the COVID or whatever. No, it's pent up demand. It's pretty well much inflation through here. Now, some of this may be a little pent up demand, but let's look at it on this chart. This is from Statista. All right, inflation rate and Federal Reserve interest rate 2018 to 2023, September 23. We're not even into 2024 just yet. The black line is interest rate, target rate. The blue line is inflation rate. So here we go. This is January 2020, the election and the big spin. We see that we actually were kind of locked, still doing that locked in on the scandemic. And then we started to come back. We were coming back to life. With or without the money, we were coming back to life, and it kind of wobbled for a little bit. And in a year, they hadn't seen the inflation really, inflation really get out of hand, because it's still below 2% here, around 2.5%, right in here, still not crazy. And then it just took off like a bullet on up. And now what happens here? Look at what the Federal Reserve Bank did. Boy, were they proactive. They are a year, more than a year behind the curve from when inflation started before they ever started to do anything. Right here. But what I wanted to get to, because I wanted to refer to the Gen Zer who was telling me that Boomer ruined his life. No, this was all the way up. They're already voting at this point in time. And what happened in our lives back here that suddenly caused that big spend of money? Who voted for that? I didn't vote for that. I'm paying the price for that. You're paying the price for that. And you might say, this is the most political thing that you've ever produced on this channel. I'm just telling you, it's economics. You know, it's easy to point to someone and say, you're my problem. Okay, but if we go back and actually look at the data, look at the affordabilities, it wasn't until after we had the explosion of trillions of dollars. We were past $20 trillion in the money supply a while back. That causes inflation. And there was some supply chain, and there's some other issues that weren't just purely inflation. Those are cost of living, but they're here and they're real. And we're getting ready to get the biggest tax increase in history if half of the stuff in this budget, proposed budget, were to go through. It's too much for this episode. We'll have to come back and get it. That's if something else doesn't blow up and overtake it. I don't know how much of it will go through, but when I go into the 1031 exchanges and the death taxes and your retirement, your 401k tax, your capital gains, you're going to pretty quickly see who's taking care of you, who's looking out for you, and who's just trying to empty your pockets. Because this is what government does. It doesn't create, it can print money, but it doesn't create money. Workers create value. They're just taking a bigger and bigger share. And it's going to affect your ability to secure shelter, even if you're just still renting. All right, that's it for that portion of it. Let's go ahead and hit the numbers for today. Let me see what my run time is. Ooh, it's getting long. All right. 5/3 of 24. Last week we had 19,558, which decreased on the availables and coming soons. We had 4525 in the under contract still showing. That also dipped down a little bit. The ratio, integer ratio between those two, hit 23. Today, 5/10/24. We had 19,946 opportunities. It ticked up a little bit. 4562. were the under contract still showing, and the integer ratio remained at 23. But to be honest, it's pretty close to dipping down into 22 zone, which would mean that we're starting to get more inventory and opportunity than we have contracts that they're still trying to hold out for. So I don't look for the interest rates to change anytime soon, and when they do change, I almost expect them to go back up, and we may get more than one going back up. It just depends on how the jobs numbers, how quickly we get to 5% on unemployment versus how hard inflation continues to rise, because you got to pay for everything, whether you have a house or you don't have a house. You still got to pay for just everything. So the inflation is the bigger target, probably is the bigger problem. All right, appreciate you watching. Tell your buddies, tell your friends. We'll see you later.